Returning him is up to President Nayib Bukele. Asked if he will,
the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
If Bukele changes his mind,
we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
But Attorney General Pam Bondi emphasizes Abrego Garcia was in the U.S. illegally. They both spoke in the Oval Office as Bukele met with President Trump. The two men have become close partners in the administration's mass deportation efforts, with Bukele putting hundreds of immigrants into a gang prison.
You are helping us out, and we appreciate it.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
Federal aviation regulators issued an emergency order Monday grounding the helicopter company behind the deadly crash in New York. The order came after the company fired its operation director minutes after he suspended flights during the investigation. This is AP News. AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports an Israeli strike has hit the northern gate of a field hospital in the Gaza Strip, injuring 10 people.
The strike hit the Kuwait Field Hospital in the Mawazi area, where hundreds of thousands of people have sought shelter in sprawling tent camps. Sabah Mohammed, a spokesman for the hospital, says 2 of the patients are critically wounded. There was no immediate comment from the Israeli military. The military has struck hospitals on several occasions during the 18-month war, accusing Hamas militants of hiding out in them or using them for military purposes. On Sunday, Israel struck the last major hospital providing critical care in northern Gaza after ordering an evacuation. A patient died during the evacuation, and the strike severely damaged the emergency room, pharmacy and surrounding buildings, according to the Al Ali Hospital. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers early today. Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high in the lower 50s. Breezy northwest winds around 20 to 25 miles per hour, gusting as high as 35. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, a low near 33. By Wednesday, sunshine, a high of 57 degrees. Thursday, a chance for rain showers late, increasing clouds, a high of 66. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 44. While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
Tyler from Wendy's here. The best part of Wendy's new Cinnabon Pull-Apart is every part. Unlike mornings, which have no good parts. Until now. Because with Wendy's new breakfast Cinnabon Pull-Apart, mornings finally don't completely suck. And now that mornings have warm cinnamon sugar rolled dough and ooey gooey frosting, are they the best part of every day? Probably not, but you get the idea. Get to Wendy's today and get the best part in every bite with the new Cinnabon Pull-Apart.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, Cinnabon is a registered trademark of Cinnabon Franchisor SPP, LLC.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Tuesday morning, progressives, and welcome to the April 15th, 2025 edition of Choose Views. Yes, it is tax day, y'all. 773-763-9278. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. You know, I really appreciate the emails, and I've got back to most everybody that sent me an email over the past few days. So glad to be able to get your emails and reply as best I can. Catch me, of course, on Substack, and catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcast or Spotify. That's where you can get Choose Views, the short version and the longer version. Of course, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other great shows and interviews. Check out our HeartlandSignal.com digital platform and make sure you are passing on. You're like secretly passing on. Hey, man, I got something good for you over here. That's our HeartlandSignal.com stuff. Check us out there. Make sure you are reading the articles and checking out the posts that we have there. Oftentimes you'll catch a video that you'll go, where did they get that from? So you can find it there. And you must take the time and go through, but sometimes, you'll find something that you didn't know was available. Busy day today, as always. We're thankful for those who are guests on our show. Yesterday, Sarah Jones from Politicus USA was with us, and Rich Logis with his guest and colleague, I guess you could say, Jason Riddle from Leaving MAGA. Very, very good conversation with Jason and the things that he learned about himself, alone, the things that he had to go through to make it to the other side, if you will. Today, we have an interview that I was blessed to be able to do with our Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton, that will be playing for you in the 6:30 hour. And then at 7 o'clock, Dr. Pierre Johnson, who is the lead OBGYN for Laredo Hospital Women's Wellness Center, talking about something I think is a really important issue for many women who and families when it comes to tackling some of the healthcare disparities that we deal with in America. And then at the 7:30 hour, Stanford Thompson, Executive Director of Equity Arc. So we've got folks with us today, and looking forward to chatting. Later today, of course, live, local, and progressive, Joan Esposito will be joined by Ian Hurd, professor of political science at Northwestern University and president of the Northwestern Faculty Senate. Jessica Chipkin, president and founder of Crate Free USA, along with Mark Ayers, Illinois director for Humane World for Animals, formerly the Humane Society of the United States. Brian Howard, executive director of Project 50 PAC, and Heartland Signal's Rich Eberwine, with 3 stories you may have missed from our digital newsroom. Live, local, and progressive weekdays, 2 to 5 p.m. Central on WCPT. 20 years, Chicago's progressive talk, y'all. Tonight, none other than Patty Vasquez, driving it home, will be broadcasting live from where? Minocqua Brewing Company's Madison Tap Room. Patty, don't be driving it home from there. You better take an Uber. Our girl Patty's doing her thing, and her guests will include WHBY outside the box, I should say, Ben Caminos with a Wisconsin update, driving it home with Patty Vasquez, but she won't be driving it home from Minocqua Brewing, hopefully. Weekdays, 5 to 7 p.m. Central, WCPT, AM 820, Heartland Signal website, tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. And tomorrow, you guys are definitely going to want to tune in, because we'll be talking about immigration with none other than Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, who is an immigration attorney down in Texas. So she'll be with us, along with Brandon Kelly, director of the Illinois State Police, talking about Scott's Law. So tune in to catch later today, Joan's show, Patty's show, and then tomorrow, of course, we've got another great lineup. So thanks to my colleagues. Those ladies get it done, y'all. I think you know that by now, but you want to tune into Patty and you want to tune into Joan, because they get it done. As I said, we have Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton's interview that we had with her yesterday that will be broadcasting in the 6:30 hour. But one of the things I want to do, and when we come back from a break, I want to play a clip that was part of something that Devin and I put together from CNN, and it talks about who we are as a country, who we say we are versus who we've become to some extent. Some may say more than others, and we'll play this clip and we'll talk about it on the backside of this first break. But for now, I'll just bring you some quick Choose Views news on April 15th, 2025, as we talk about the U.S. dollar slumped to a 6-month low yesterday. Currency traders are projecting further deterioration. The Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index fell for a 5th consecutive day, bringing its year-to-date decline to about 5.9%. So we're seeing one analyst has described the sell-off of these assets as a horrible, toxic combination. Economic anxiety is on the rise from Wall Street to Main Street. The economic outlook is deteriorating. Expectations among consumers that the unemployment rate will be higher a year from now surged to the highest level since the start of the pandemic, according to the New York Fed's monthly survey. Respondents also see a pickup in inflation with pessimism about the stock market, as pessimism about the stock market has grown. The tech tariff break may be a temporary break. Stocks jumped yesterday as investors adjusted the latest tariff updates, tariff exemptions that were issued on Friday on electronic goods, including smartphones, tablets, and laptops, are temporary, and more levies are in the works, according to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. And I don't think he knows what the hell he's doing, but there you go. Airlines are leaning on wealthier flyers to keep afloat. They're simultaneously bracing for economic turbulence and wooing higher-end leisure travelers in order to prop up demand, according to CNBC. It notes that Delta, United, Air France, Lufthansa, even budget air carrier Spirit Airlines are offering more premium seating options as first class, premium economy, and international revenue have grown. The Commerce Department data shows momentum for international travel to the United States is slowing, with non-citizen arrivals to the U.S. last month dropping about 10% compared to last year. You guys realize that's a big, big number, because those are folks that are traveling, and they don't want to use the word tourist in a negative way, but they've historically been part of the class of people that have come to the United States to visit and to tour and to see the wonderfulness of our country. So that's a sign. That's a big sign. Pay attention to that, and we'll keep you posted. And small businesses are suing over tariffs. A group of small businesses has filed a lawsuit opposing new U.S. tariffs. We're going to call these Trump tariffs, challenging Trump's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose trade levies. The suit, filed in the U.S. Court of International Trade, questions the White House's rationale for the tariffs, claiming trade deficits, which have persisted for decades without causing economic harm, are not an emergency. And I would agree with that. The plaintiffs include a wine distributor, a cycling apparel brand, and a plumbing supply company. What did I say yesterday, Devin? And this is on the heels of what Stephanie Ruhle from MSNBC had to say. Why are the big company CEOs and C-suite people silent when you've got small businesses who are, enacting a small business lawsuit, a class action lawsuit? Where are the big companies? Speaking of big companies, Zuckerberg is on trial. He's going to stand trial regarding this antitrust issue that I talked about last week with regards to Meta. We'll keep you posted on that. It's going to be a big deal, and this is the fallout. If the suit is successful, the company could be forced to sell the apps Meta. They could be forced to sell Instagram and WhatsApp. The FTC wins this case. The irony about this is the federal government is the ones leading this case, i.e. Trump and his administration in the FTC. And where was Mark Zuckerberg during the inauguration? Sitting right there in the front row. So we'll see. All right, guys, we'll take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Advertisement sponsored by Allied Injury Group, not available in all states. This important message from Allied Injury Group reminds you that if you or someone you love was injured in an accident that wasn't your fault, you deserve financial compensation for your medical expenses, lost wages, pain, and suffering. Don't rely on insurance companies to look out for you. If you haven't spoken to an attorney, call our legal experts now. Work accident, truck accident, collision with an uninsured driver, or a slip and fall. Allied Injury Group has helped clients win hundreds of millions of dollars in damages. They're available 24/7 to take your call and fight for you. Remember, if you or someone you love suffered injuries in an accident that wasn't your fault, like being struck by a drunk driver, a collision with an 18-wheeler, were a victim of workplace negligence or more, get the financial compensation you deserve. Call Allied Injury Group for a free consultation now.
Call 800-818-2581. That's 800-818-2581. Again, 800-818-2581.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back. Choose Views. Since you're waking up with me, let me let you know if you are commuting, traveling, getting to work, getting to wherever today, it's a little drizzly, windy out. So be careful if you're commuting today. If you're taking the bus or the train or whatever, your Uber, however your Lyft, whatever you're doing, just be careful. It's a little damp out, a little windy. So, stick your head out the door before you head out the door for work or any of your commuting that you may have today. You may need to grab that umbrella or that raincoat, rainwear, whatever it might be. But just be careful here if you're here in Chicago and you're listening. And speaking of things that are happening in Chicago, as you guys know, WCPT, we sold out of all of our tickets to our May 3rd anniversary broadcast at Max and Benny's restaurant in Northbrook. But that still means you'll be able to tune in that day between 11 and 3. At least we hope you will, to hear Hal Sparks, Patty Vasquez, Scott Duff, Joan Esposito, and I as we broadcast live with special guests. The event is sponsored by Max and Benny's, Fazio Insurance, Smart 365, the Democratic Party of Kane County, and Southland Friends of Labor, as well as the Democratic Party of McHenry County and McHenry County Democratic Women. A large list of great sponsors and folks that we're proud to be working with. Be sure to visit our anniversary webpage where you can find the details about the special broadcast. We've got a photo gallery there that the producers here have put together, and it's pretty cool, I must say, of things that we all have done over the years here at WCPT. So make sure you make your way to our anniversary webpage, and you can check that stuff out. One other thing that we're doing to just make ourselves more available to you so you can reach out and touch is the WCPT. As we celebrate our 20 years on air, we want to hear your WCPT story. You've heard mine, you've heard others. We want to hear your WCPT story. So we've got a line that's dedicated to that effort. You can call 773-467-8202 today and leave a voicemail. We'll be playing some of the messages on the air. And again, you can call 773-467-8202. A recording by none other than Patty Vasquez will greet you with suggestions for recording your story. So do it. We want to hear from you. We really do. That makes what we do even more connected to you guys. So, make that call. All right. News items, house cleaning items, we have those taken care of. And I just have to say that we are not a country that deports American citizens. And it's irresponsible of any leader of any party, but particularly the president of the United States, to say that in somewhat of almost a flippant way. I had to catch my words because I almost said something else. I almost bit my lip on that one, literally. Bite your tongue, I almost bit my lip. In a flippant way, about, we could deport American citizens, send some Americans to a far-off place. That's, okay, I know sometimes we say that's not who we are. That's who we have hidden from ourselves as being, because that's where we're about to be. Maybe, I don't know. But what I do know is this: no elected official, no business leader should ever speak that in any way whatsoever, that we would, and loosely and flippantly say, deport or send Americans away to another country. Now, okay, if Donald wants to play that game, then let's send some of your Russian illegals that are here. How about that? Because we know that there are some here. There are many Russians that are here illegally. If we're going to, play this game. But, you know, my frustration in this particular conversation is being a descendant of folks who were enslaved in this country. America, if you've got that much of an issue with people not being here, maybe some of the folks in the MAGA crowd should look in the mirror if you got that much of an issue, because you've got some. I'm sure if we dug deep enough, we could find something that would potentially make you eligible for this deportation garbage. And those who are, I mean, you know, I'm just going to say this, and it's going to probably bite some people in the backside. Those folks running around here talking about, you know, we built this country and this is our America and we're the patriots. Not necessarily. And we've got limited time this morning, so I'm not going to get too deep in this conversation as much, bless you, Devin, as much as I want to on the people who want to run around and pretend like they're the real Americans. Because, you know, it would take a lot to peel that grape apart this morning. But what I am going to do is go to this clip that Devin and I put together from CNN's not CNN's, but Van Lathan, who you guys should check out, was on CNN. He was talking about who we've said we are as a country versus now who we are sliding into becoming. So Devin's going to hit you with this Van Lathan recent clip from CNN.
The Declaration of Independence, it says, you know, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Now, obviously, if you're black like me, there are problems with the document in terms of the way your people were treated and have been treated here for generations. But it's very important to understand that says men, humans. It doesn't say Americans. It says that our entire way of life, our entire government is undergirded by a belief in human rights. Meaning, if you happen to find yourself in America, then you are entitled to treatment that is different than if you find yourself in China or in Russia or in Germany in 1939 or any of those places. That we have a specific belief in human rights and the value of a human person. That means that we are not going to send you to a torture chamber without due process, and we're not going to subvert the rule of law to dehumanize you. Amen. And that has to mean something. And if it doesn't mean anything, then we lose our entire way of life and who we hope to be at some point, even if we haven't been that person in the past. And I just think everybody who's talking about whether or not this guy is American or not, or how he was here, or like what he means, just sit back and think about who it is that you want to be. And that's not who we want to be.
Most definitely is not who we want to be. I mean, this is one of those things, guys, where there's times when I'm on the show talking with you, talking to you, that I bank down anger because I look at where we are, and you've heard me say this before, and I look at the utter stupidity of the country to elect Donald Trump to a second term in office. The first time, you know, we can find all kinds of ways to rationalize ourselves into the pretzel that we want to bend ourselves into, that it happened. But a second time is utter irresponsibility, craziness, lunacy, and a bunch of other words. And at the same time, it's just flat out embarrassing that we, and I say we because I say this as a country, as a person that believes in our country, that still, you know, takes the Cory Booker position that our country is great. It always has. It hasn't always been great. It's always been aspiring to be great. But to do what we're doing now, or to have done what we've done in letting Donald Trump back into office, and I say we because I know there's people who, obviously 75 million plus people that didn't vote for him, 78 million that did, and a bunch of people, 36% of the voting population that didn't vote at all. And, you know, and I could get into the whole conversation, as I've said before, about trickery and what happened and voter suppression and all those things. But at the end of the day, that we're having to have conversations about deporting people, period. that are on the cusp of being here illegal or not. I mean, it's a heartbreaking situation that we would have a president that is so uber focused on this one scenario that he's let these other scenarios that he promised when he ran that he was going to deal with fall to the wayside. And then to drop on the country, tariffs, which are causing harm real time to people's lives. You know, it does take me aback. It does get me angry about why this country was so gullible. So many people in this country were so gullible and irresponsible and racist, sexist, misogynistic, and nationalistic. And there's a part of it, there's a group of people in that description that are just flat out weak. And they showed it by the way in which they voted. They're just flat out weak. They're afraid of their own shadow, and they put that blame out on other people. And then there's others who didn't participate, and we know that. And we have an electoral college system, voting system that's antiquated and coming out of the historical ills of enslavement. And that's got to change. That definitely has to change. But even without that changing, let's just be honest, guys. We've had elections where the Electoral College favored us. So we need to get rid of it so that we lean into the popular vote. But to get that done, we know we've got to change. We have to have different numbers in Congress, both the House and Senate. We know all that, and state legislatures, frankly. But still, the country that says it's the leading country in the world, the greatest economy, and all these other labels, self-imposed in some cases, really dropped the ball in a magnificently stupid way this time around. And I agree with what Van Lathan says, that, you know, these mistakes, and now this conversation, even loosely about deporting Americans, are sending people to places that are far away. It's just irresponsible. It's a horrible thing for someone to let come out of their mouths. And yet America's still got people that are behind this guy. So I'm at the same time I say that, I also remain very optimistic about where we go. But I can't just jump over the fact that these conversations have to be had, and that we have to be the ones to lead the conversation, to lead us out of this craziness and this darkness. So as much as I'm pointing it out and holding back my anger so that I use the best words I can and not the ugly words, I still say with a smile on my face that's real, that I know we will fight through this, because it's the Progressive Liberal Democratic Party and our ideas that are better than those of the GOP. Across the board, up and down the ticket, local, regional, state, national ideas are better. When we come back from the break, we're going to have the interview that I was so fortunate to have with our Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton, here in the great state of Illinois, to talk about why she stays focused and why she's a believer and why she's realistically optimistic about where we're headed. Because she is one of those voices that's leading in that conversation. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be able to have that conversation with you. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Thanks to our loyal WCPT listeners, the WCPT 20th anniversary broadcast is officially sold out. But you can still enjoy the broadcast by listening to WCPT Radio on Saturday, May 3rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Hal Sparks will kick things off at 11 a.m., then hand it off to WCPT hosts Richard Chu, Joan Esposito, Patty Vasquez, and Scott Duff at 1 o'clock. Surprise guests from WCPT's 20-year history will also join us. Scroll through 20 years of WCPT Radio with with legendary interviews, shows, and pictures on the WCPT 820 website. WCPT's live broadcast is sponsored by Max and Benny's Restaurant in Northbrook, Fazio Insurance, Smart 265, Kane County Dems, Southland Friends of Labor, Democratic Party of McHenry County, and McHenry County Democratic Women. It's the WCPT 20th Anniversary live broadcast Saturday, May 3rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Only on WCPT 820, Chicago's only progressive talk radio station for 20 years.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers early today. Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high in the lower 50s. Breezy northwest winds around 20 to 25 miles per hour, gusting as high as 35. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, a low near 33. By Wednesday, sunshine, a high of 57 degrees. Thursday, a chance for rain showers late, increasing clouds, a high of 66. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 42.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
It's Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose View, 773-763-9278. So before the break, as I was saying, I just need to remind us that this is the country that we say we're not. So if we're going to be that country that we say that we're not, then we have to do the work to make sure that that we don't lean into those directions. And I was given some information in this conversation around deportation, and we know that without due process, this is where we are with this gentleman and others that we are concerned that may have unfortunately fall through the cracks or a glitch. It's just unacceptable. And so that's why we have to be very careful in how we approach this conversation around people who are, so to speak, not here legally. We have to be really clear on the definition of that. And we have to be really clear on what criminal acts are going to be the ones that do get put in front of a judge where someone then does have due process. Because what's happening right now, or what happened, is not, the phrase was used, it's more along the lines of trafficking and kidnapping or disappearing someone than it was actually deporting someone because he did not get due process. And I agree with many people that say that the reason that the Trump administration and Pam Bondi can't really do anything about it is because this gentleman may be dead. That's an awful thing for this country to have to hang its hat on. But America made the decision that they wanted to, as they said at the RNC convention, mass deportations. So, staying in the fight, guys, staying in the fight. But this is just one of those reality moments where we have to talk about it. And one of those people that's staying in the fight and leading the way in the conversation around where we need to go as a state, where we need to go as a country, is our own Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton. She is fabulous and fantastic and smart and brilliant and all those things that we want to see in our leaders. And she brings that to the table. I've had the opportunity of meeting her on a number of occasions and talking with her offline, off camera or off radio. And she's just as real in that space as she is when she's on the air and vice versa. Chicago born and bred, and our own Lieutenant Governor who is doing great stuff for the state and the nation. So without any further ado, Devin's got that queued up and ready to go. And here we are with our Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton. Well, progressives, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have our own Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton with us this morning. And I'm so excited to have you with us, Madam Lieutenant Governor. I wanted to ask you right out of the gate a big question that everyone is curious about, and that is this first quarter that we just came through. What are some the accomplishments and things that you have succeeded at and things that you feel that your administration, there are areas of improvement?
Well, first of all, Richard, always glad to join you. Thanks for having me. And I think that, when I think of a question like that and I look back over what this first quarter of the year has been for all of us, I can't sugarcoat it. I mean, it has not been the easiest start to the year. In so many ways, we've seen Donald Trump really dragging the American people through what I've been calling a 5-alarm fire, and looking at the really how his attacks have been putting a stress test on almost every aspect of our lives. I mean, we look at the attacks on our school systems and education, the attacks on our courts, the attacks certainly that every American is feeling on our economy, and our attacks on our government. And so I just have to start in answering your question by saying and acknowledging that real people are suffering. And I think it's important to recognize how our families are really feeling the weight of the chaos that is coming out of Washington, D.C. But at the same time, there have been some really good moments that we've seen in this first quarter of the year, and some moments that, quite frankly, have really been signs of hope and have re-energized me. We've seen, wins across Illinois. I mean, look at this month's elections. We saw some big wins in municipal races all across our state, and I want to give a shout out to the Democratic Party of Illinois and our chair, Lisa Hernandez, and the organizing apparatus that they've built. We certainly saw what happened to our neighbors in Wisconsin with the Supreme Court win, and even down in Florida. We saw that we can compete even in some of the reddest states. So as much as we've seen the chaos, we've also seen how people are taking to the streets with the hands-off protest. They're showing how they want their elected officials to fight for us. They're giving us an example that they still have fight in them and they want to see us fight. And it's one of the reasons why I launched my Level Up PAC, to make sure, and that also happened this first quarter, to make sure that we have a vehicle to not just have that dialogue, but to show real action of how Illinois is fighting back. Governor Pritzker and I have been vocal about standing up to the chaos that's coming out of Washington. And from Rockford to Rock Island, I've been out in communities to make sure that we are listening to residents, but also letting them know that their leaders are fighting for them too.
And that's so great to hear, Madam Lieutenant Governor, because I've said this on my show a number of times. You and Governor Pritzker have been leading the way, not just for the state, but for the nation. And we are super proud of what our elected officials have done in the state. And we're super proud of what your administration has done. And what is some of the impact that you're seeing, feeling from the folks that you're talking to real time about the leadership, frankly, that you guys are showing here in the state of Illinois?
Well, Richard, I tell you, I have heard from more people. I mean, and this is, we've been in office 6.5 years. We're proud of our accomplishments. But I have heard from more people during this particular time, over this first quarter that you talked about, of people saying, I am so proud to be in Illinois, and I am so proud of the leadership of our state. And it's because we are being vocal. We're calling out Trump's failures. We're making sure that we're demonstrating how Trump is failing the American people and failing everyday families who are just trying to get by. And we know what those issues are. I mean, I'm listening to people. I'm going into communities to say, you tell us what you are focused on. They are focused on rising prices. They are focused on jobs. And they are focused on health care. And Donald Trump is failing in all three of those areas, despite what he said, that whatever he campaigned on, despite what he said he was going to do, he has done none of those things. And yet, in contrast, the reason why Illinoisans are so proud is because we're not only holding him accountable, but we're delivering on all of those things. I mean, look at what's happening with this ongoing and escalating trade war, where prices are rising because of Donald Trump. But in Illinois, we're bringing prices down. We eliminated the grocery tax, so we're bringing prices down. When Trump has slashed tens of thousands of jobs, including jobs held by our veterans, I mean, it's unconscionable. But yet in Illinois, we've created thousands of new jobs by investing in 21st century technologies. And then, of course, one of the biggest issues that has caused people to take to the streets and say hands off our health care is that Donald Trump is proposing nearly $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid. But look at what we've done here in Illinois. We wiped away medical debt, and we're making it easier for folks to get health care. So I think that you'll just continue to see this contrast, and it's why people are saying, I'm so proud to live in this state. And by the way, I've heard from a number of people, including this weekend as I headed out to McHenry County and headed out to Rock Island County. I've heard from people who said, I used to live in a neighboring state, but I came to Illinois because I want this kind of leadership for myself. So we're going to keep hearing that, and really proud of what the Pritzker-Stratton administration has done, and we'll continue to do these big things.
And we're super proud and excited about that and hearing the forward thinking. I read a letter from a gentleman a couple of weeks ago on my show where he talked about, he moved from Kentucky, he and his husband, and the governor posted that letter. And it's just another reflection of the type of leadership that you, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, have provided to the state, to people around us, to the neighboring states, and frankly, in the nation. I've talked to people from coast to coast that have said, wow, you guys in Illinois are getting things done, and it's the place to be, frankly. You've been active on social media, talking about being out and talking to folks. You've been, every time we look up, and this is in a smiling face I say this, you're spending time with local businesses. And I'm just curious, what's been your driving force, your impetus behind that effort?
Well, I think, first of all, look at what's happening with our economy right now. Everyday working families are going to be impacted, but so will our small businesses. And so it's an opportunity for me to, again, continue to show the stark contrast of what we're doing here in Illinois, where we're supporting businesses, supporting, the middle-class families all across our state. And we're seeing instead an attack on businesses, an attack on working families coming out of Washington, D.C. But I also think, of course, that social media can be a powerful tool. It's a way to reach people where they are. I have been doing videos talking about some of the policies that we are seeing, the policy conversations, and making sure that Illinoisans know how these policies coming out of Washington will be touching their lives, what resources are available for them. Look, they want to hear from us. They want to know about the cuts to education and the threats to Medicaid. And they also want to know ways that we here in Illinois are continuing to do the work to lift up our residents and our constituents and make sure that their lives are better. Because to me, Richard, that's what government should really be about. So I think social media can be a great tool. It can also be a stressor. I don't want to deny that. So I also tried to do some things that are fun and lighthearted. I tried to talk about self-care, about building community, and of course, supporting our local businesses all across the state. One, because I want people to know all the great things that we have here in Illinois, the great businesses. But secondly, because I think it's a nod to how important our small businesses are to the local community. But I think I just want to touch on what you said. It is a contrast, and you are seeing people looking at Illinois, and it is what you talked about. It's something that should be shared across the nation. And I see Illinois as really having the blueprint for, states around the country about the kind of work that can be accomplished. Look, we've protected reproductive freedom. We've raised the minimum wage. We've passed common sense gun safety laws. We've invested in our infrastructure all across the state. These are the kinds of policies that not only make sense, but they make the lives of our residents better. And that's why the Level Up PAC that I launched is an opportunity to say to the nation, take a look at what we've done here, look at what we've accomplished, and we want to spread that message far and wide because it's an example of what other states can do, just like here in Illinois.
Yeah. Last couple of questions because I know your schedule is tight because you're very busy. What do you recommend that regular everyday folks can do to stay active and not lose faith and not lose hope right now?
Well, think about it. It's not going to be easy. We have an uphill battle that we are facing. But I do see a shift, Richard. I do see a shift happening. As I talked about before, we are seeing people taking to the streets and saying, hands off the things that we care about, hands off our civil rights, hands off our health care, et cetera, et cetera. And people are getting fired up. So there's a shift that is happening. And I think that we have to keep taking, when people say, I'm so angry and I'm so frustrated, we have to make sure that they are channeling that energy into action. So Illinois, again, is setting the example. I mean, Governor Pritzker and I continue to call out the nonsense and the chaos that's happening in Washington, D.C. We are being bold. We are not mincing words. When we see this chaos happen, we are pausing to say, this is what's happening. We're getting out on our social media and in the press, and we are talking about it every chance we get. But we also have to keep listening to Illinoisans, because they are going to keep telling us how we can make their lives better. So there's this sort of dual response, and it requires all of us. It's not just elected leaders raising their voices. We need people to tell us, here's what we're looking for from our leaders. We don't want you just going along to get along. We want you to stand up. We want you to fight, and that's what we are hearing on a day-to-day basis. And then I think the other thing is, people sometimes wonder how to get engaged. Everything makes a difference. I was talking to a woman this weekend who said, well, I wrote 300 postcards. And I said, that's amazing. We need you to write postcards when it's time, when the elections are coming up. We need people to be precinct committee people. We need people to run for office. We need people to get to the streets and march when it's time. We need them to vote when there's an election. And we need them to go to other states, if they can, where it might be more difficult than it is to elect Democrats than in Illinois. But the bottom line is, whatever you have to do, just like when I woke up on November 6th after Election Day, everybody has to ask themselves the question, am I going to just sort of sit back and just kind of check out, or am I going to lean in and get to work? I decided to lean in and get to work, and I'm hearing people all over our state say we're going to do that too.
That's great to hear. And as we wrap up, we're in the second quarter now. What's your number one? If you said, Richard, this is the thing I want to make sure that my administration gets done, or at least gets started, what would that thing be?
I would love to say that there was one thing, and I don't want to, evade your question, but honestly, right now, we are focused on what we have been doing, which is to provide some stability and fiscal responsibility in the state of Illinois. The governor has proposed our 7th consecutive balanced budget. We've passed 6 consecutive balanced budgets, and it's important that we continue on this path to financial responsibility. You'll recall that when we took office, and I was a state legislator at the time, we had gone through almost 2 years without a balanced budget. And that had led our, communities in disarray. It led so many nonprofit organizations who are doing good work in our communities, many of whom had to shut their doors. We had colleges and universities wondering, could they still attract students because they were facing so much instability. And of course, it affected healthcare, it affected childcare, and so much that our families depend on. And so this fiscal responsibility that we have demonstrated over these last 6.5 years needs to continue. We need to get the balanced budget passed. And it becomes more challenging as we're seeing the chaos coming out of Washington. So our goal is to provide that steady leadership to make sure that we can keep taking care of the work of the state of Illinois and keep caring for the people of our state who need it. And I think that's my top priority right now.
Yes, stability, consistency, a sense of safety. These are all things that you have embraced, and certainly you and Governor Pritzker have embraced. And as always, we thank you for taking the time to be with us right now. I know folks always want to hear from you. You've been a champion every day, and that's one of the things that makes it so easy and such an honor to speak with you and have you on our show. So thank you, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak with us this morning.
Thanks so much, Richard. Have a great day.
I will. Thank you again. Bye now.
If you turned 65 recently like me, It's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. That's 800-365-6303.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey, progressives. Welcome back to Choose Views. Yes, we, what can I say? Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton is, as I heard someone say, she is one of our future great leaders. She's a great leader right now, but she's one of our future leaders that, you know, will hit the national stage at some point. She has that kind of leadership quality and skill set and her ability to command the issues. And I'm excited that we are able to have her on the show. And I'm proud, honored, all the words that you can come up with, that she would be with us. So we will do our best to have her back in the future and have her bring her updates as to what's happening. Guys, you probably, to some extent, realize this. I choose a path or part of a path when it comes to interviewing folks, particularly those who are elected officials. I come from the position and the mindset that I want them to succeed. I want them to do the great job that we hope that they will do. So I'm not the guy. I am fully capable of asking hard-ass questions to people. I know that. But I choose to ask questions that will allow us to have a conversation with the elected official and get information out of them, if you will, or conversation out of them that allows us to tap in a little bit more to who they are. Believe me, I could ask very, very tough questions. I mean, when I say tough questions, I mean ones that put people on their heels. But that doesn't accomplish anything in the sense of how do we help them move forward and what can we do to let them know we have their back. Because I know that when a person, anybody feels that the folks around them have their back, they will work, you know, their tails off to get the job done, if they're about getting the job done. And she is, as is Governor Pritzker. And I think that we should be proud of our state officials as well as our local officials. They are not perfect, and neither are we. So our responsibility is to push them to do better, not to try to throw parachutes on them to drag them down. So you guys have to, hopefully you understand that is the style that I've embraced, because it would be, I think, less effective. So it's great to have her on, and we're working on the governor. Trust me, behind the scenes, I'm pulling all the strings that I can to try to make that happen. You guys may remember back when the family meeting, we had, at that time, candidate J.B. Pritzker on the family meeting a couple of times. So, this is the place. WCPT is the spot. It's where you want to be. And I think that because of the leadership that we have here and the focus that we have on staying progressive and being not only the progressive voice here in Chicago, but throughout the nation, that we've been able to have some wonderful folks on. And all of our guests are wonderful, but you guys know what I mean. People who are leading the charge in so many different areas. Later in the week, on Thursday, we have Congresswoman Robin Kelly that'll be with us. And she's another one of those Illinois folks that are doing the work and getting the job done. So I'm really proud of the people that we have in Congress and the people that we have here locally and statewide that are making Illinois and the city of Chicago and a place that people want to be, and recognizing that no matter what the media, the mainstream national media wants to try to say about us, that Chicagoans, Illinoisans pull their shoulders back and we lean into getting the job done. And I'm very proud to be a representative of that conversation. So we're going to keep having our leaders on, and we're going to keep pushing them. We're going to be critical when necessary and complimentary at the same time, so that we can help them move forward, help them get better. And I look at it like a sports team in some regards, and in some ways, that we want to make sure our team is strong and tight and ready to get the job done. And when we don't, that we work on what we have to do to get the job done and bring everybody with us. So I just want you guys to understand that, and hopefully you're riding along with me in that space. Devin, before we go to this top of the hour break, why don't we see if we can squeeze Jim in real quickly for a quick call. Hey, Jim, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Rich. In jolly old England, the Tories, 15 well-heeled Tories, bet on advanced information when the election was going to be called. They all cash sizable bets. It's a huge scandal there. It's similar to the United States. Are these really tariffs, or are these just manipulation of the market? Did Charles Schwab throw Trump a bone on Wednesday when he made $2.5 billion? How many people have been making money on these gyrations in the market?
Yeah.
It's a perfect way to make quick money. Look at the Tories; they were well-heeled. That party was well-heeled. Rishi Sunak was a billionaire. His first guy in command, he got caught red-handed. Apparently, they need more money than they could live on their government salaries. So there's no honor among thieves this morning. That's all I can say. That's absolutely gone with the wind. I guess it's grab as much money as you can, as fast as you can. That's the theme of the day. Anyway, Rich, thanks for taking my call. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim, for calling. Always good to hear from Jim. Trafficking, kidnapping, disappearing, as our good friend Diane reminded me of this morning. Thank you for that, Diane. As well as shorting and scamming and other words that we can throw into what the Trump administration is really about. They aren't helping regular mainstream middle American folks. And anybody that thinks that they are is you need to look in the mirror, because what you voted for is not, you voted for it. You said you wanted something a certain way, and now you're not getting it. So who got fooled? Who got taken in by the okie doke? Not the 75 million that voted for Vice President Harris. That's for darn sure. It's the 78 million that said, I want my eggs prices to go down, and all the rest of the lies that you told yourself. And as it was asked of me, what's being said behind closed doors by Republicans? They're probably, many of them, going, oh blank. My constituents are not going to be happy. So we'll see. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have one of the leaders at one of our leading hospitals here in the Chicagoland area. Dr. Pierre Johnson will be talking about some great things happening at Laredo Hospital. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
WCPT Replay.
We have spoken before with Rich Logis, founder of Leaving MAGA. I want to talk to you more about your own personal journey, Rich. When did it finally reach a breaking point?
The final straw for me was May 24th, 2022. And that was the day of the Uvalde, Texas school shooting. And after that day, Joan, I quietly left MAGA. I only told a few people. When I did that, something was gnawing at me that wasn't enough. I was always very unapologetically public in my support for Trump. I felt that I needed to reciprocate, and I needed to be unapologetically public in my renunciation of MAGA. And it was on August 30th, 2022, when I published a mea culpa. And in that mea culpa, I said that I was wrong, that I hurt others, and that I was sorry that I supported Trump and MAGA.
Keep listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
From office supplies to IT essentials, Amazon Business provides tools that help you save costs and make insight-based decisions. Learn how to bring your visions to life at AmazonBusiness.com.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. The auto industry could be temporarily exempt from tariffs. President Trump told reporters in the Oval Office he wants to help car companies who are relocating back to the U.S. from Mexico, Canada, and other places.
And they need a little bit of time, because they're going to make them here. but they need a little bit of time.
The U.S. government moves ahead on other tariff plans and begins their investigations into computer chips and pharmaceutical imports. Despite tariff pauses, the Trump administration still plans to implement tariffs on pharmaceutical drugs, lumber, copper, and computer chips. The Commerce Department said it's looking into how imports related to computer chips, the equipment used to make them, and products that contain them affect national security. Police are investigating how the man who set Governor Josh Shapiro's house on fire was able to break into the residence. According to court documents, Cody Balmer told police he planned to beat the governor with a sledgehammer if he found him. Authorities say the fire was carefully planned, but a motive for the attack was not immediately clear. The 38-year-old faces several charges, including attempted homicide, terrorism, and arson. Balmer was denied bail Monday. AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports Japanese regulators have accused tech giant Google of violating anti-monopoly laws, echoing similar moves in the U.S. and Europe.
The Japan Fair Trade Commission's cease and desist order says Google must stop the pre-installation of the Google search engine in Android smartphones, which, it says, in effect shuts out competition. Google Japan says in a statement that it finds the action regrettable, adding it had invested in Japan significantly to promote innovation as a technology leader. It's unclear if Google, a subsidiary of Alphabet, will fight the order. In the US, a judge ruled last year that Google had illegally exploited its dominance to squash competition. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
This is AP News. Gethin Coolball has the latest on sports.
AP Sports, I'm Gethin Coolbaugh. Paige Beckers is taking her talents to Dallas after the former UConn star was drafted number 1 overall by the Wings in the WNBA draft.
To be at this stage, to be here, to have a lot of my supporters here and people who've helped me get here, it just means everything to me.
The Suns have parted ways with veteran coach Mike Budenholzer after one season and a 36-46 record. The Pelicans fired basketball operations chief David Griffin after an injury-plagued 21-win season. Longtime Reds and two-time All-Star infielder Tommy Helms died at the age of 83. Three-time All-Pro cornerback Patrick Peterson retired as a member of the Cardinals after 13 NFL seasons, and former NFL tight end Don Hasselbeck, who won a Super Bowl in his 9-year career and was the father of 2 NFL.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers early today. Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high in the lower 50s. Breezy northwest winds around 20 to 25 miles per hour, gusting as high as 35. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, a low near 33. By Wednesday, sunshine, a high of 57 degrees. Thursday, a chance for rain showers late, increasing clouds, a high of 66. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 43.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the second hour of Choose Views. Of course, our number here is 773-763-9278. Great to have Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton with us, and just talking about the leadership that's taking place here in our state. And that leadership, obviously, from our elected officials is broad and massive, and we've got so many great people in that space. We have a tremendous number of great business leaders here in our state. We also have a large number of folks in the medical profession that have made it their life's work, their career, to be a leader and to take charge when it comes to areas of medicine that impact people's lives. And in this crazy political environment that we're in, and the Lieutenant Governor talked about the chaos coming out of the Trump administration, we have folks here right in Chicago that are leading the way. And during this Black Maternal Health Week, which is April 11th through April 17th, we have one of those leading medical professionals, doctors, leading the charge when it comes to women's health. So I'd like to welcome to our show Dr. Pierre Johnson, who is the lead OBGYN for Laredo Hospital Women's Health Center here in Chicago. Good morning, Doc, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I know it's probably maybe a little bit earlier this morning than you might be used to, but especially to be on the radio. But you know, we appreciate you being with us this morning, and I know if you've got a little bit later schedule this morning with patients and all the medical work you do, I appreciate you setting the alarm a little bit earlier to be with us. So.
No, I'm actually headed into surgery, man. So it's okay.
Gotcha. Well, first of all, if you would, I mean, you are, as I like to say, you're a Chicago guy. Your journey in becoming a physician has been personal because you are, someone that was born here in Chicago, raised here in Chicago, and you spent a lot of time making sure that Chicago represents positive medical treatment for specifically women. But take a moment, if you can, Dr. Johnson, and just take us through your journey from to where you are today.
Sure. So, I was born on the south side of Chicago, and, just growing up, really quick, I just saw the need for, coming back to give to the city of Chicago. I was born at Mercy Hospital on the south side of Chicago, which closed down. And I, just growing up public aid and experiencing, some of the substandard care as a child and watching my mom experience it, I knew that I wanted to make a difference. And I knew that, the only way that I could do that is acquire all of the skills, the knowledge, and not leave the things that I know were bad to come back and actually make a difference. So, my drive today was, deep rooted from as a kid, and my commitment to come back to my community is very, very intentional. And so, that's what I profess to do, because a lot of the times, when people, make it per se, or, get these skills, they go look for the money, they go and, really kind of become selfish, if you will. But that's just not my goal. My goal is to actually give back.
And you've done a great job of that. I mean, the biggest thing that's happened recently is the new Women's Wellness Center, which is up and running at Laredo Hospital. Talk about that center. Talk about your involvement in helping this project get up and running.
So it's just very exciting. When I was presented with the opportunity of just bringing a women's center to Laredo, I was very, very intrigued and extremely happy about it because, there was no, gynecologic presence in a hospital and just in a community that needed it so badly. And so, what I bring is, the technological advancements that, women in the area need, because when you talk about minimally invasive surgery or, surgery with small incisions that don't leave, women, with morbid conditions, and why they run away from the doctor with these horrible problems, it's just a lack of resources. It's a lack of care, in these communities. So my aim was to bring it there, and not only bring it there, but, have some of the other technological advances that are in the more affluent areas, like your Northwestern University of Chicago's, like bring, the Da Vinci robot there, bring, things that the community needs and deserves and could benefit from. So I'm extremely excited about it, and it's just starting right now, but it's snowballing and everything. It's just, it's just a blessing at this point.
Absolutely. Dr. Johnson, who have been some of your allies in getting this done and getting this off the ground and making sure that it's going to be a forward moving success?
Well, first and foremost, Taysa Anowiski, the CEO of Laredo Hospital, has been, a godsend. Her heart is in the right place, and she's, doing everything that she can to make Laredo a beacon of light for the community of Chicago, as well as Senator Kimberly Lightfoot, who's trying her best to actually bring the resources that we so desperately need there. But the staff can go on and on. The staff at Laredo, so many influential people that are there with the same vision, mindset as myself to push the needle forward.
Laredo Hospital has been a champion for, going on 100 years, or now plus 100 years, going back to 1923 as a not-for-profit, community-focused healthcare facility, and serves a large amount of the community that's known by many Chicagoans as the Austin specific community and surrounding communities. What has that meant to Chicago, to your point of, you compare it to the Northwesterns and the other hospitals in Chicagoland area, but what has Laredo Hospital meant to the community in which you serve?
It's meant everything. I mean, if you look at the landscape of Chicago, you will see that, all of not all of them, but, just a majority of the hospitals that are in our community are closing. And if you look at, like, for instance, the south side of Chicago, and even on the west side of Chicago, there's just not many places where, people in these communities can really get health care. So Laredo is just a shining example. We can make that change. And, before I got there, there wasn't even a talk about laparoscopic surgery or Da Vinci robot. It was kind of like a far off dream, but it just took, somebody there with a vision to come and just say, hey, this is what we need. This is how we're going to do it. And I don't even think that the community is ready for, all of the things that are coming to Laredo to offer for people to actually, utilize all of the tools that are coming.
Well, one of the things, as the phrase goes, to the baseball movie, if you build it, they will come. And I think that the fact that you've built it and been a significant part, along with the CEO, and repeat the CEO's name again for us, because I don't want to botch it. I tried earlier, and I thought, just ask the doc to say it for us.
Sure. So first name is Taysa Anowiski.
And
it's her last name.
Anowiski, right. So tell us a little bit about your relationship with the CEO in terms of, I mean, at the end of the day, your projects have been astounding, but it does take coordination with your allies to get things done. How have you and the CEO interacted to make sure that things do get done and that this women's wellness center has gotten up and running?
We talk virtually every day, multiple times a day. It's one of the biggest reasons why I came is because, it's so many red tapes and hurdles with most hospital systems that they have to go through things, but I have a great personal relationship with her, and our visions aligned perfectly. So whenever I have, something that I want to do or something that I see that can be of improvement, she is the catalyst. She makes, she opens the doors quickly. So her office is literally, a couple of steps away from mine. So we are always in direct communication, and which really, is a blessing to move the needle forward. But she is, I can't say enough about her and the movements that she's making, and just her willingness to accept, my ideas and changes, because, some of these things are expensive, some of these things are taxing, but she trusts me to be able to implement these things, and I've shown her that it can be fruitful for the hospital.
And obviously then for the greater community. One of the things that you've really leaned into is really this fight for equity in healthcare, and how you want to break down some of these systemic barriers with your work. And I'd like you to chat a little bit about it. And I know this is a much longer window of conversation time needed, but just talk about what a lot of people don't know about, which is the lack of equity in healthcare when it comes to specifically African American women.
Absolutely. Well, we could have a whole 2-3 episode show with that. But just for everyone, as an African American man that was really was the first resident of my graduating black man resident class, as well as the only black kid in my medical class. I just understood my value and my importance in what I was trying to do. And if you look at the history, of our country, everything that I know and everything that we know from an OBGYN standpoint of, the technological advances that we know in the surgeries came off the back of slave women, right? They held these slave women down and performed these surgeries on them, and that's how they learned. And to that point, all of the things that we know today are not afforded to the women in these communities because there's just not the skilled surgeons that are there. So, the healthcare and the disparities are just lack of resources and a lack of skilled individuals that are in these areas. So it's just a travesty to know that all of the sacrifice from our ancestors beforehand are not afforded to the women of today, and that's where I chose to make a difference and make a change because it should be. There should be, healthcare should be equitable for all. We live in a country that has so many resources, so many opportunities, and there's no way that, we have people that are sick and that need help have all of the advancements that we've been afforded in this country.
You back in March, you had a women's, an open house that took place in late March, and I'm just curious, how did that go? How was it a successful event? What were some of the takeaways for you?
It was absolutely a successful event. You had, congresswomen and senators, CEOs of organizations and hospitals, other doctors that were there and just could see what was happening and unfolding, and just having the support for the movement for this women's center. It was absolutely spectacular and awesome, and just to have, all of the involvement and everybody's interest was great. It was a panel discussion in the morning with just Black women of excellence, talking about how we move the needle forward, and just a celebration of the Women's Center after, which I think brought a spotlight to the need and also to the energy and the movement that's coming behind what we're trying to do.
Well, here's a question, or kind of a statement and a question regarding women's health care in general, but specifically women's health care for Black women. This is not just a local Chicago issue. This is an issue that's felt across the country and needs more attention and more energy and more money and all the rest throughout the country. Would you say yes to that, no to that, or somewhere in between? What's your take on that?
That's 100%. And I just, as a kid, I knew that I just didn't want to be the doctor on the south side of Chicago or, just in my area. I wanted to be able to afford the opportunity to all women. And I specifically a niche for minimally invasive surgery and fibroids. And, through social media, I found that the outreach to women was, accessible and easy, but more importantly, I was more so able to see that the lack of care doesn't just apply to Chicago. It's your New Yorks, it's your LAs and Miami. So what I've created is a service that allows, these women from these other cities and even out of the country to fly into Chicago, Illinois, on the west side of Chicago for surgeries. Yeah, so a majority of my patients actually aren't even in Chicago. They're flying in from other cities, which is now showing people in Chicago, like, hey, if women are flying in from other cities, like, why are we not taking advantage of it too? So it's grown inside in the city as well. But it also really started from social media that allowed me to give a platform to get information, education out to, women throughout the country. And now they're able to utilize the service, but it's everywhere. Like last year, I operated on, a woman from Finland, several women from Canada, that have come in, and are just reaching out saying, hey, it's not, it's not just an American problem, it's a problem all over. But being able to afford that opportunity to these women is a blessing.
And just so that our listeners know that what the doctor is specifically talking about is the issue with fibroids, and he's become internationally recognized and renowned as the fibroid slayer. Take a quick moment to talk about that, maybe as broadly as you can, given the technical parts that would most people may not understand.
Oh, fibroids are, just real quick, are benign growths or non-cancerous growths of smooth muscle that grow on the womb or the uterus. And it's a extremely prevalent disease, which is why I chose to create it as one of my niches. But for African American women, the 80% of African American women have fibroids, and up to 25 to 30% of those women have fibroids to the point where they need surgery or they need intervention. And to that standpoint, it's a huge problem. I can't even put it into words how big of an issue it is. But my issue was that the women that have advanced fibroid disease and that have, fibroids, that they're being shunned. They're not being afforded the opportunity to have minimally invasive surgeries to remove them, but they're also being forced into hysterectomies. And so going back to the disparity points, 2/3 of all hysterectomies are still performed in southern states. And that just screams volumes for, where our country is at. Mm-hmm. And so my biggest thing was providing women that have never had children or that have strong desire for children and that have advanced fibroid disease the opportunity to be able to have children moving on in the future. And that's really snowballed. And I made a point to never turn down surgeries. I take the most complex cases, and it's afforded me a skill set that really, really is invaluable. Is really invaluable to the women that suffer from this advanced disease.
Yeah. Doctor, listen, you said it, and I knew it. I've been asking you the question. There's so much more we could talk about in this space, and that means two things. One, we have to have you back, and we'll talk about this more, particularly to see the progress of the center and how it's impacting in a positive way women's lives and those of the community. I always like to ask our guests how folks can get involved. I'm a big believer in participating in the process of succeeding. And how can, if there is a way for folks that may want to volunteer and be a part of what you specifically are doing, or more broadly what Laredo Hospital is doing, that are here in the Chicagoland area, how can they kind of get involved if there's a way?
Absolutely. Well, number one, come visit. So we're at Laredo Hospital, Central Avenue off 290 West in Chicago. So come see what we're doing and what we're providing. And there are many different ways to provide resources. One is to write our Congresspeople, our politicians that are in positions of power to be able to help us with the resources that we need. But also, too, there are plenty of volunteer opportunities to help. Personally, I have so many women that are flying in from outside of Chicago and accommodating of them to, so that they come in and have successful surgeries. It's room for, volunteer work to help with that process, but it's also room for volunteer work within the hospital as well. And as far as resources are concerned, this is a nonprofit hospital. It's a safety net hospital. So, any resources that can be poured into the project and to what we're trying to do in our advancement is more than welcome. So anyone that has the access to resources and wants to get involved from a financial standpoint, we would love it, and we would really need it and appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Dr. Pierre Johnson, who is the lead OBGYN at Laredo Hospital Women's Health Wellness Center here in Chicago, and we appreciate you being with us, but more importantly, man, you're doing, as the phrase goes, the Lord's work. You're doing the universe's work to make sure that we are taking care of those that are in need. So thank you for taking time, Dr. Johnson, to be with us this morning. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to having you back in the near future. Does that sound okay to you?
Absolutely. We'll be happy to come back, and thank you so much for having me and giving me a platform to be able to tell what we're doing. Absolutely. Dr. Johnson, go have a great day today. We appreciate your service, and we'll talk with you soon. Bye now. Talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. Wow. That, I mean, if you, all you have to do, guys, is to tap, research fibroid issues when it comes to women. Research that. And you'll find, or Google that, you'll find a tremendous amount of information that might blow you away. But more importantly and more broadly, I think when it comes to women's health, what I think is critically important is that we know that there's some national issues that are taking monies away, taking support away, taking the tools away from doctors in local communities. And this is an example of someone that's, as I say oftentimes, standing in the void and making sure that we are not yielding to this craziness that's coming out of Washington. I didn't get into talking to him about the politics in general from a national perspective, but you heard toward the end, he even said himself with what's happening now, we know that there's a need for support. So reach out if you can to the folks at Laredo Hospital. And as Dr. Johnson said, come by for a visit and see what they're doing. And I think it may be an enlightening visit for you and for you to find ways to be involved. I think it's important that we highlight these wonderful leaders that are not elected officials or business industry folk, but those that are in particular categories like medicine that are making a huge difference. So kudos to Dr. Johnson and the folks at Laredo. Devin, let's take a quick break, my man. The number, of course, here is 773-763-9278. When we come back, we're going to be talking with a gentleman that's going to show you what you do when Donald Trump decides to try to step on your dream. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of talking to yourself? We can get you an audience on the radio. You can produce and host your own radio show on one of our 2 stations. Please call 773-792-1121. That's 773-792-1121 and ask for Mark. Limited space available.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
If you try to eat healthier these days, it's likely that you're eating more vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and low-fat dairy products. How does that affect your grocery bill? Dr. Pablo Monsivais from the University of Washington looked at the cost of consuming enough potassium, calcium, vitamin D, and fiber.
We've known for some time that having a healthier diet is generally more expensive than having a poor diet. But what we didn't know is the specific cost of raising intakes of these 4 nutrients. And what did surprise us about that was the fact that potassium out of those 4 was the most expensive one to increase. So much so that if you just take the group of adults we were surveying and have them increase their intake to just the recommended value, that was going to add, by our estimates, about $380 a year to an individual's food cost.
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
Still struggling with gas, bloat, constipation, nausea, or diarrhea? Have you tried eliminating foods but felt no change? It's time to call the tummy whisperer, Renee Barish at Digestive Health Solutions. Renee uses targeted testing to reveal exactly what's happening in your gut. Gut bacteria plays a key role in all your body functions, from cardiovascular regulation to brain function. When the gut is imbalanced, you may experience symptoms that extend beyond the gut, such as anxiety, skin issues, poor sleep, or increased risk for disease. Digestive Health Solution uses advanced testing to identify harmful microbes and evaluate the overall balance of the gut ecosystem. Get insights into your health, digestion, and how your microbiome affects all aspects of your body. Stop suffering. Call Renee now at 847-207-2034 or visit thetummywhisperer.com. That number is 847-207-2034. Let's get you feeling better. The Tummy Whisperer.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers early today. Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high in the lower 50s. Breezy northwest winds around 20 to 25 miles per hour, gusting as high as 35. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, a low near 33. By Wednesday, sunshine, a high of 57 degrees. Thursday, a chance for rain showers late, increasing clouds, a high of 66. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 43.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressive, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Great to have Dr. Pierre Johnson on with us in the previous segment. And, of course, prior to that, our interview with Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. So, and as as he said, this is an international issue. It's not a just Chicago issue. He's doing the work here at Laredo Hospital, making it local. But in terms of what's going on throughout the country, this is something that we want to put some light on. Donald Trump is the wrecking ball that's in the White House. He's not president. He's a wrecking ball. And we've seen it. We knew it was coming. Many people decided to bury their heads in the sand and not vote. And that's not an indictment. That's just a reality. Folks said, I'm not going to do it, and didn't want to do it, weren't motivated enough to do it. The list goes on. And then there were 78 million that decided to vote for the carnage and the craziness that we are now dealing with. As progressives, as folks who keep fighting, some people say, no, you can't take our dream away. You can't, by your executive orders, Donald Trump, just take away things that are great for our families, our children, our society in general. And our next guest is the executive director at Equity Arc. What is Equity Arc? Headquartered here at 38 South Peoria Street in the West Loop, works with about 700 promising young musicians across the United States, paying for instruments, organizing boot camps, matching them with mentors, and connecting them to jobs in professional orchestras and bands. The goal is for institutions of classical music to, quote, take meaningful steps toward equity and inclusion. So we've got a cat with us this morning, Stanford Thompson, who is the executive director of Equity Arc, that's going to tell us a little bit about how sometimes the DEI order canceling a student concert can, quote unquote, have a backfire reaction. So, Stanford, good morning and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I hope I'm getting all these points right about you and the organization. But take a moment, if you would, Stanford, and tell us about Equity Arc and tell us about you and the work that you're doing, which is so meaningful at this point in time for our students.
Yeah, so you definitely got it all right. I mean, we're a national organization that believes that classical musicians of color deserve to be on our professional stages. And we realize that journey starts very early on, a lot of times at age 4 or 5 years old, as young people are picking up instruments for the first time. So we arrange enriching opportunities that provide them with a perspective of what it's like to be a professional musician. And as you were mentioning, we were planning for a 2-year period of time to bring a group of students to Washington, D.C. to work with the United States Marine Band. And unfortunately, we got caught up in Trump's executive order just a couple of months before the collaboration was supposed to happen this May. And that's really what, led to us bringing the kids together despite his order to Washington to work with a group of retired musicians from the different premier bands throughout D.C. and still make sure they receive their enriching opportunity to learn how they can serve their country through military service by being a musician.
When I heard about this, and I know that 60 Minutes highlighted what went down. When I heard about this, I had to call on all the spiritual guidance for me to not just say all those bad words that grandmama and grandpapa said don't say. But you know, and that's a statement that crosses all generations and all cultures in terms of how frustrating and angry it made me when I heard about this. And so I'm thankful that we're able to have you on this morning. But the thing that I want to talk about and how we know the wrecking ball, we know the absolute disconnect that this administration has with things that matter for all folks in our country. But in terms of, as you said, youth participating in music at an early age and how meaningful that is to them, seeing the world differently, that's what you guys have really been trying to do. I mean, you founded this organization, was it back in 2018? Do I have that correct?
Yes.
And so through that, you've had a huge success in a number of students that have come through and been able to see that, wow, this is something that, you know, I'd like to be able to do. And not necessarily that leads to a professional career, but it's something that it inspires a child. It gives a child a different outlook on life. Tell us about some of the impact that you've had in working with youth and touching them at an early age when it comes to their musical curiosity.
Sure. So, I mean, for me, this goes back the past 20 years of helping students, you know, locally and across the country to be able to gain access to those types of opportunities where they can have that enriching experience in music. And I certainly know that those are the experiences that help shape their character and their discipline, and also just kind of their worldview of being able to see beyond what might just be a couple of blocks around them. And for some of these students, they're really interested in taking music as far as they can. So we have, through Equity Arc, we've been arranging millions of dollars that have gone into helping to pay for private lessons, helping them to get upgraded instruments. I mean, you're talking about kids that need violins in high school that are between $50,000 to $100,000. Woodwind and brass instruments that can easily reach between $3,000 to $15,000. And then also helping them get access to really great summer programs so that they can have all the tools that they need and the perspectives and the skills to make an informed decision later on if they want to continue to pursue music. And a lot of times the professional they find, not necessarily in classical music, but they find them in film studios and recording studios, all types of professional ensembles, from hip-hop groups to our orchestras, chamber groups. So, I mean, we want to make sure that they can, again, have the tools and the information to make the steps that they make. And for all of them, we want them to become better people. And for those that want to take it further, they can do it.
Well, and for me, let me leave me out of the equation for a moment. I'll come back to that in a moment. I want to talk a little bit about after this took place, and then you're speaking to this with Scott Pelley on CBS. Tons of donations came in. What was that like? How did that happen? How did it impact you? I mean, I'm super curious about what happened there.
Sure. So I would say, I mean, for any nonprofit to be able to have their work on a national stage like CBS, what we experienced with 60 Minutes was really amazing. I mean, hundreds of donations came in within 24 hours, even as far as Germany and Switzerland, but all over the United States. I believe, 43 different states now, and perhaps maybe 600 or 700 donations or so. And I think the story inspired a lot of people, what it means to really stand up for what's right. And I think for people that understand truly what diversity, equity, and inclusion means and how it benefits all of us. So we were really happy to see that message spread more so than the message of young people working really hard to become professional musicians. But again, what equity really means for all of us. So this has been a really transformative time for our organization. And in the process, we're working really hard to lift up many other music organizations locally and across the country that also share, our philosophy and our values.
You yourself, professional trumpeter, and certainly work with you know how to blow the horn yourself. What's your musical personal journey been like?
So personal journey, I grew up in a household of both my parents are retired music educators. My mom grew up on the South Side. My father grew up in Mississippi. They raised us in Atlanta. And to be able to see music modeled from them, me and my siblings, I would certainly say that those early experiences, musical experiences, were really important. And then knowing that, my father fought in Vietnam, used the GI Bill to then be able to get the education that he needed. My mom was one of 7 kids who integrated Mount Greenwood Elementary School on the South Side.
Wow.
Back in the 60s. And, again, the way they raised me was, opportunity is really important. And to receive equitable opportunities for education was something that they impressed upon me. So in addition to, growing my chops as a trumpet player, I also had those values instilled in me. I easily could see in my travels and my development, not everybody had the same equitable opportunities that my parents fought hard for me to receive musically, and in other parts of my education. So it was really clear to me when I finished college at Philadelphia that it was, that was calling. Those values were calling me to say, how can I use my skills, my new connections, to then develop something that would widen the pathway for many more musicians to come through.
And you definitely have done that. One of the things you talked about earlier, Stanford, is the blending of different types of music. And I'll make this statement, and you can correct it or you can enhance it, whatever. But I think it's so cool to see how different types of music, and we can use hip hop as an example, where there could be a kid growing up in a house or with a family where that may be the dominant music they hear, and then they get exposed to classical, or they get exposed to another type of music, maybe it be jazz, maybe it be rock and roll, but they're able to then integrate the music together. They're able to put those two different, quote, types of music together to create this great sound. And I'm seeing more and more of that happening where, we've got, the legendary Bob James, who, some of his music is some of the most sampled music by hip hop artists. And then it's integrated into jazz and integrated into classical. And you've been able to do your own version of that by introducing, young musicians to the CSO here in Chicago. That's fascinating.
Yeah, we had a really great collaboration 2 weekends ago, and we brought together about 65 musicians from across the country, 14 of them who represented Chicago, and to be able to play side by side with members of the orchestra and also the civic orchestra. And I think that exposure is important. Richard, this is America in terms of the mixing of culture and ideas. And unfortunately, there are people that are trying to ignore that mixing is happening. There are more people that are seeking opportunities that they have deserved, and they want a seat at the table, that we're trying to make the table bigger. And there are people that are just fundamentally against that idea. So I think, it's really, in my opinion, this mix that we are seeing that you talk about, it's just a reflection of the greater society here in the United States. That is changing rapidly, and I'm sure in the next generation or two, we will certainly see more of that change. There's no stopping this train that's moving forward, and we're really excited to be part of kind of leading that change in music, encouraging our students to get exposed to classical music, And I remember growing up in Atlanta, hip hop in the 80s and 90s and such, and Outkast and Ludacris and T.I. And I mean, that was my musical upbringing. But I'm glad that I was exposed to classical music and jazz and music from all over the world. And I'm able to appreciate this beautiful mix that we're starting to see as people are crossing genres.
Yeah, and it does represent the connection that we all have. I mean, I think that there's some scientific evidence to show that music is probably one of our central tools of connectivity because of the sound element and the way in which music, the different beats that are inside of music are somewhat spiritual and also universal, and they are a tool for connection if we just get the heck out of the way and let that happen.
Correct. Yes, certainly agree with all of that. So,
well, listen. Go ahead. You're going to say something. I'm sorry, Stanford.
No, I was just going to mention that. I mean, this is, I think, a really, really exciting time, and even with all the unfortunate news, we're very, very grateful for the opportunity to have our story told, and certainly appreciate you helping to tell the story more.
How can folks get involved with Equity Arc? I know that I always try with every guest to at least put you out there and show what you're doing, but folks need to know how to find you. How can they get involved? How can they be supportive? How can they contribute, et cetera?
So people can visit us at equityarc, A-R-C, as in cat, .org, and certainly learn more about what we're doing. You can find links to donate. I would also say be in touch with us. We want to learn about what's happening not only in the field of music, but also in the arts in terms of equitable practices. Find ways to partner with us, follow the story, come out to performances, support, and most importantly, support music that's happening in your backyard. So certainly looking forward to connecting with people, and again, to visit us at equityarc, ARC.org.
It's great to have you with us. Stanford Thompson, y'all, the voice, the executive director at Equity Arc. Check them out, give them some support, send them some love. And Stanford, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks again, Richard.
You're welcome. Have a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, guys, I'm a music dude, and I've always felt that the connection that music has to all of us. I mean, you can like different types of music. We all do. But ultimately, I think that it's the message that's behind or in the music that is connected for all of us. So it was great to have Stanford with us this morning. Devin, let's take a quick break. I'm going to get a sip of coffee, and we come back. We'll wrap up today's show. 773-763-9278. It's also always our number, and you can text us at that number as well. We'll be right back.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-708-3091. 800-708-3091. 800-708-3091. That's 800-708-3091.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
You're listening to Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Great to be back with you guys, 773-763-9278. And wow, how cool to have Stanford Thompson, Executive Director at Equity Arc, with us this morning. Check out their organization, guys. As you heard from our interview, Donald Trump decided that he was going to cancel having, I mean, just think about that for a second, y'all. Just think about the cravenness of it. There's no value in that. Period. And I don't want to take a happy moment, a solid moment with Stanford and turn it into something other than that. But let's just be honest with ourselves. The whole reason that I wanted to talk with him is because of the fact that, when we saw this, it's like, you got to be kidding me. Another thing that's somebody on the right help me understand how cutting that does anything to benefit the country, to make us great again. Help me understand that, MAGA. I mean, I'll listen and let you prove me wrong and millions of other Americans wrong, that cutting something like that, where these young folks are going to perform with the Marine Corps band, you got to educate me in that space. I mean, Devin, I don't get that one. I get most of this, but these are kids that are going to perform music. I mean, but see, here's where this is the other side of it. And I go back to what Lieutenant Governor said. We know that it's a tough time, but what are we going to do is roll up our sleeves and keep fighting. Because here's, what happened, as I said in the intro to Stanford being on with this, is that be damned Donald Trump's, effort in this space. We as a country, those of us that really care, stepped up and made huge donations that have been pouring in to Equity Arc to help in their effort to continue to provide this incubator for young musicians that have been historically underrepresented in classical music. Ironically, if you do your history, if you do your research, you'll find that classical music's origins are not necessarily where you think they are, or music in general. Y'all can read between the lines on that. But the point I'm making is, what's the objective here, other than to cause pain to people that don't deserve it? Young folks, none of us do, but young folks particularly. Something I never really hear come out of Donald Trump's mouth. And again, MAGA, correct me if I'm wrong. I never really hear any conversations about our children and helping our children do great things and supporting efforts to improve their education and improve their medical conditions and improve their social awareness and all these things. I never really hear, not just Donald Trump, but the entire administration before, in the first term and this first less than 100 days. Never really talk about how we want to make sure that our children are protected and safe, other than the caustic things that come out of the mouths of people like Pam Blondie when it comes to, we're going to make sure that our children aren't being assaulted. Well, then you know what, Pam Blondie, how about if you make sure that some of these rapists, namely your boss, and some of these other people who have been caught that are church leaders in these crazy Christian nationalist churches, stop messing with our children? How about supporting their efforts? You only hear about these crazy A governors in red states taking away opportunity and benefits for children, taking away food programs. But yeah, you've got knuckleheads like the dude that's on Fox wanting to say that because Governor Tim Walz is excited and vibrant and energetic and full of that life, that he's effeminate. But this is a guy that's making sure that kids get fed. Meanwhile, Jesse Waters is the name that I was trying to come up with. We'll try to drag Governor Tim Walz for doing something to help children. But you never really hear Republican elected officials talking about doing things to help kids, but more they lean in direction of things that are going to hurt kids or take away opportunities for our children. Now, my wife and I don't have children. We call ourselves good uncles and aunts, and we do our best in that space. And the children of our friends to help be a positive influence in their lives. That's what we've been blessed with, is that goal and that objective. But we don't hear, let me put it this way. Even though we don't have our own children, we embrace the fact that children need to be honored and represented and raised in a way that they can be excited about their futures. But our leaders in Washington right now, specifically the GOP, and even more specifically this administration, would rather cancel a student concert and break the hearts of children who did nothing to deserve that They'd rather cancel a concert than get behind an effort to foster that learning and that energy and that excitement. And that's something that this country has to be doggone ashamed of. And I'm thankful that Stanford would take the time to chat with us this morning about what they are doing at Equity Arc. But what they're doing is a reflection of this conversation around America being great. These are the great people, the Stanford Thompsons, I should say, of the world, and the Dr. Pierre Johnsons of the world. These are the people that are making the country great, not these knuckleheads that are governors in red states and the GOP in Washington, both House and Senate, and certainly, most definitely not the administration or Donald Trump. They are not doing a damn thing to make this country great, again or not. And that's why we have to keep fighting, and we have to keep supporting organizations like Equity Arc. We have to keep supporting our leaders that are elected in blue states that are doing the work, like Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton and Governor J.B. Pritzker. We have to make sure that we're standing behind them. We, as I say so many times, and I will say it again as positively as I can, we have to be critical because that's where we learn, but we also have to find ways to help them be successful. So reach out to the folks at Laredo Hospital and Dr. Pierre Johnson and the work that they're doing with the Women's Wellness Center. Reach out to Stanford Thompson at Equity Arc to let them know that, you know, you're there to try to help and be involved. You know how I feel about our local organizations and supporting them. They're part of the national conversation. So our responsibility is to help them because as we help them, they help others. And that's something that we can be proud of as progressive liberal Democrats. So shout outs to all you guys that sent me text messages this morning, Allison, Jill, the rest of you. I can't get to everybody, 815-630, and the list goes on. Thanks for following us and sending us text messages. Thanks for you guys who follow us on social media. We appreciate your support. And as I say every day, guess what? You get to take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
WCPT replay.
You know, I hear a lot of people saying that they hate Illinois. They hate Cook County. You know, they literally, you can just see the passion and the anger when they talk about that. I can't wait to move away and move away. And everybody talks about getting out of the state, which, and I'll be honest with you, I love it here. But yet our house is still a seller's market. There's still more people that want to move in than are moving out. I mean, if so many people are leaving our state, then wouldn't the buyers have more power?
A lot of it has to do with how people identify. People's identity, the things they most cherish. And if you identify as someone who is conservative, you will look at some of the legislation that's been passed, pro-LGBTQ, pro-DEI, whatever other buzzwords that people on the right side of the political spectrum like to point at that are